Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I've got 5 super easy, budget-friendly Mother's Day DIYs to share with you that I think you're really going to enjoy. So if you want to know how to make them, stick around. I'll show you how. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Right, Maxwell? This next one, I'm going to use some linen fabric, and I'm just going to cut it into a 12 by 12 square. I'm just kind of folded it over there to get my size, and I'm just going to cut it into a square. And then I'm going to kind of ravel the edges just a little bit, kind of pull some of the thread off just to kind of give it a little bit of unevenness. Next, I got a little pint-sized rosemary plant from Lowe's, and I'm taking a clear cellophane bag and I'm going to fold it back because I'm going to put my plant down into this bag. And I think these end up being maybe 11 by 15 inch bag, but just get a bag, or even if you don't have a bag, you can use like a Ziploc bag, but you do want to put it into a bag. And then I'm just going to box over the corners of the bottom of the bag just to hold this in place. I'm going to lay my fabric out into a diamond shape. I'm just going to lay my plant right on top of here, and then I'm going to fold the bottom up, pull it up, tuck it up underneath there, and then start pulling in the sides and tucking those under as well. This is a real quick and easy one, and these turn out so cute. And then just turn that one in, and then I'm just going to put a straight pin in here to hold it, and then I'm going to tie a ribbon around it. And I'm just using a neutral color ribbon that kind of matches the linen, and you could use any kind of fabric that you want to, and then I'm just going to tie it into a bow. And then I'm removing my pin after I do that. To dress up the front a little bit, I just printed the word rosemary on some brown cardstock, and I'm just going to attach it right to the front with some jute twine. And I'm just using a little hole punch to punch a hole in it, and then I'll attach my jute twine and I'll tie it around the front part of my ribbon. This is a great gift for anybody because these are things that they can actually use. These would be great for coworkers, your church friends, your neighbors. These are really cute and they don't cost that much. I think I only gave like $5 for my plants. And then they can plant them out in their garden and they have something to remember you by. I'm just going to cut those two off, and then look how cute that is. Hey, I'd like to thank Mead & Arts for sponsoring my video today. If you don't want to make something for your mom for Mother's Day, they make these really nice little cabinets and little carriers that you can put your little art supplies in, or if your mom sews or anything like that, or even home office use. These are great little boxes. They are really pretty. They got a slick finish to them, and they hold a lot of stuff, and they're all in about the $40 range. But look how cute that is. It opens up. It has all these little different dividers in it, and then you can just carry it with you. And you can put paints in there. You can put paint brushes in there. Anything that you want that's a craft supply or an office supply. And you can also paint these if you want to, and then they'd be really pretty if you were to decoupage them. And then these last two cabinets, these have lots of little compartments in it. So if you have craft supplies that use a lot of little pieces in it, this is a real good way to organize all that. And you can stack these two together. These actually come together in a kit together. And together they're run around $79, but you can also purchase them separately for right in the $40 range. And I'll also give you in the description below a coupon code that you can use if you want to go over and purchase it. But they do have some great art supplies. For this next one, I'm just using one of the metal pails from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove my label. And I'm going to use a heat source on this, and it makes the label pull off super quick and easy. And next, I'm going to take some white chalk paint and a chip brush, and I'm just going to start distressing this. And I'm going to put quite a bit of white on this. And I started going in this one direction here, and then I'm going to start going crossways as well in both directions to kind of really make it distressed. So I'm taking some bright pink acrylic paint, and I'm using that same paintbrush, and I'm just going to start dabbing it on here to give it some color. And I'm going to add quite a bit on here. Okay, next I'm going to dip my paintbrush in the pink paint. I'm just trying to cover up the little bristles on it. And then I'm going to use a heat tool to kind of rapidly dry it up a little bit because we're leaving it on the paintbrush. This is going to be part of our project. Next, I'm going to cut a piece of pool noodle to go inside of my little pail, and this is what's going to hold our flowers. I got these bundles of flowers at Michael's. They're $3.99, but they're on sale for like 50% off right now. And I'm going to use about 2.5 bundles for these, and I'm going to cut them short to fit into my pail. And then I am going to take some hot glue to glue my little noodle down to the bottom of that pail. So just going to cut them off short, then we're going to have to cut them off a little bit shorter here in a little bit too. Now I'm just using hot glue to attach this, and I'm just going to put it right into the center. You want to put a good amount of glue on it though. And after I cut it a little bit shorter, I'm just going to stick those right down in the center. I'm trying to make it to where you don't see the tops of the stems. So just kind of play with it till you get your little bundle completely filled in. And then I did cut some shorter ones to put into the front, and then kind of drooping over the side a little bit. So just kind of play with it till you get it about as full as you want it. And I am really filling mine up. And then I ended up using 2.5 of the bundles. Okay, next I'm going to take a little craft stick, and I'm just going to paint the top half of it with that same pink paint. And then I'm going to glue a little mini clothespin right to the top with the clothespin opening facing upward. Next, I got a little paint sample card from Lowe's. It kind of has similar colors to my flowers, and I'm just cutting it off to where it's about maybe 1.5 inches wide. And I'm leaving it where you can see the words of the color of the paint. And then that's going to get attached to the little paint stick that I put the little clothespin on, and I'm going to put that down into my flower arrangement. And then I'm going to put my paintbrush right down on the opposite side. So it kind of looks like you painted your flowers. This one turned out super cute. I really like the way this turned out. Okay, next I'm taking some of the plastic wine glasses from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to take the pattern that I've given you in the description below, just download it and then just cut it out. And then there's a little gauge on it that needs to be 1 inch square once you finish printing it. And then I'm going to cut this out on a double-sided scrapbook paper. And you don't have to use a double-sided paper, but it does look good that way. And then you're just going to fold it around, overlapping it about 1/2 inch on the back. And then we're just going to put hot glue on the back. This is just going to be a lampshade for a plastic wine glass. And then you want to put some candy in your wine glass. I'm just using some Werther's Originals. And if you get it from the Dollar Tree, this one bag will fill that entire wine glass. This is a real budget-friendly project. And then I'm just taking a piece of plastic, put it over the top. I'm going to attach a rubber band, and then I'm just going to trim off the excess up towards the rubber band. Next, I'm going to take some ribbon that is coordinated with my paper, and I'm just going to tie a bow right on the bottom around the stem. And then I'm just going to put my little lampshade on. Super easy. Look how cute that turned out. Okay, for this one, I'm going to use 2 5x7 frames from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use everything except for the glass. I'm also going to move the little tabs off the back. Then using one of the Dollar Tree placemats and the backing as my template, I'm going to trace around this. I'm going to cut 2 of these out. And these are pretty thin little placemats. They work great for these kind of projects. And I'm using one I just cut out as a template to draw my next one. So you're just going to cut 2 exactly the same way. If we took the glass out, I'm just going to use a piece of cardboard to fill up the rest of the frame. And then I started to use scissors on it, but then I got a little box cutter out to kind of make it a little bit straighter. And then just put it right into the back, just make sure it fits. And then cut another one exactly like that one. Next, I'm going to take 3 of the 5-gallon stir sticks. These measure 21 inches in length. I'm going to put 2. They're kind of parallel to each other, and I'm going to put a topper on the top part. And I'm just using a frame to make a placehold for here. Going to just kind of spread it out enough to where they both get on there with a little space on each side of that frame. And then lay your other piece across there, mark it where it's flush for both sides, and then we're going to cut 3 of these exactly the same way. So right there, we're going to cut it, and we're going to cut 3 exactly the same. And I'm just coming out with my miter saw. This is a really good handy saw if you want a small saw. This is about a 7.5-inch blade, and it really does cut well. And it does cut bigger piece of wood as well. And just going to cut 3 of those exactly the same. I just end up stacking mine on top of each other, turning them around the opposite way. And then I just run it up to where my blade is to make sure I'm getting the exact same cut. And then I'll do that next cut. Just kind of line it up there, push it up against that blade, and then just cut through. And then I'm going to cut one more exactly the same. Okay, next I'm going to paint my frames, and I'm painting them with some white chalk paint. And if you've noticed, I've changed frames from the black frame because I totally screwed those up. I had to switch to a different frame. And I'm just painting these with chalk paint. And these are Dollar Tree frames as well. Those have dried. I'm taking some 225 grit sandpaper, and I am going to rough these up. I'm trying to make these look very vintage, very old. And you can get them as roughed up as you want. I'm going to go real quick through this. I want you to see how much I did, but I am putting a lot of pressure on the sandpaper, and I am going to go through the center of the frame as well. Just get it as roughed up as you want, and if you don't like the rustic look, skip this part completely. Okay, next I'm going to take my 3 pieces that I cut, put them into the center here, and pull this together. This way you can kind of make sure that you are getting it square. Then I'm going to start by taking out the first piece. This is the one that's going to go on top. Just kind of line it up. And then I decided to put my frame up there and move this out just a little bit. So I'm going to end up overhanging the edge of my 2 pieces of wood about 1/4 of an inch on both sides. And then I'm just going to use wood glue to glue these in. And I'm just going to glue this right at the top edge of those 2 long sticks. Just kind of really line it up, make sure that it is flush with the top, and then let that dry. That's dried. I'm just going to lay my frame up here, and then I'm going to put my other piece of wood just below it. Now, you don't want to put this so tight that you can't get the white frame out. Just lightly glue this in right here, and then just let that dry real good, and then you can pull that frame right back out. Just don't push it up so far. You just kind of want to line it up and then just put it up, just touching it, and then let that dry. And then you should be able to pull that frame out pretty easily. And then we're going to add our next frame right below that, and we're going to glue our bottom piece in. Now this bottom piece is going to overhang the edge a little bit. Just get those glued in, and then let all this set up and dry. And then you can lift your frames straight up and out. Okay, next we're going to assemble our frame. We're going to start by putting our placemat in first, and then we're going to glue our cardboard on top of that. And then we're going to glue our backing plate onto the back of that, and then just fold your tabs over to hold this all together. And then I did end up taking those little hanger pieces off the back as well. Next, we're going to add some little hinge clips to this. Just kind of find your center point and then mark it with a pencil. We're going to drill a screw hole through here. And this would be great for picture frame, notes, or anything you want to put on it. And I'm using a nail setting tool to kind of mark my hole first. And then I'm going to start with a small drill bit and then graduate up to a little bit bigger drill bit. And I'm just going to run a paper brad through these once I get them to the size I want. I'm just going to attach these with a long paper brad. I'm going to put a little bit of glue inside the hole and on the back part of the brad, run it through there, and then let that dry. Then flip it over and then open that up, and you can put some glue on both sides to hold that together. And then do the same thing with the second one. Okay, next I'm just going to use some water-based whole wheat paint and just a little soft rag, and I'm just going to stain this. I'm going to stain the front, the back, the sides, all of it. Okay, next I'm just going to attach my frames with some hot glue. I'm going to put plenty of glue down each side, and then I'm just going to put my frame in there. These will fit in there pretty snug, and they're not going anywhere. And that glue is plenty to hold these. And I'm going to glue the bottom one in exactly like I just did that one. Just kind of hold it in place until it does dry. Next, I got these little metallic stickers at Dollar Tree, and I would definitely recommend picking some of these up if you see them. I did pick up a few packs of these because they are so pretty. I'm just kind of figuring out exactly which one I want to put where, but I'm going to put 3 different ones on here, and I am going to put a little hot glue on them just to secure them, even though they do have an adhesive back. These really do help dress up your project a little bit better. And just push them on there. They'll stay really good. The adhesive back was already pretty sticky. You don't really need the hot glue, but I would recommend doing it. Okay, now to display these boards, you could just lean them up on a shelf. You could hang them up in the kitchen or hang them up anywhere in your house. They can add pictures to them. If you put it in the kitchen, it'd be really cute to add like a menu, and then maybe a recipe card on it. But I got this little box of daily devotionals. I'm just going to put these on this one. And then I'm going to send this to my mom with that box. And she can just kind of swap them out every couple of days or even every couple of weeks. But this makes a super nice gift. Look how cute that is. Okay, for this next one, I'm using some of the salt and pepper shakers from the Dollar Tree. I'm removing the lids, and I'm going to paint these with some white chalk paint. You could spray paint these if you want to, but I'm cleaning them off, first of all, with some alcohol just to make sure that I do get an adhesion real good on the paint. And then I'm just using the Adirondack white, and I'm just putting it on a dowel stick to hold it in place while I paint these. And I end up having to do 2 coats on this, but you want to cover every bit of them. Next, I'm taking a piece of sandpaper and I'm just lightly removing some of the paint so you can see the glass through it. And I'm just doing this in random sections. And then I'm also going to do it around the top part, around the lid area. And then to distress it a little bit more, I'm coming in with some black chalk paint and a chip brush, and I'm lightly running it over this. Now, brush your paint onto a paper towel to get most of it off first so that you don't get so much paint in one area. Next, to finish out the top, I'm just going to take some jute twine and I'm going to wrap it around 4 times kind of tightly, and then I'm going to tie it off in a bow on the front. And I'm going to do all 4 of my jars exactly the same way. And I got these flowers at Michael's. They were 99 cents for a bunch of them, and I'm putting 2 in each one of my vases. And so I have one that's a little bit short and one that's a little bit taller. And then we're going to put something in here to hold them all in here in a minute. But I'm just kind of just placing them in here just to kind of get them set up. Next, I'm going to take some 5-gallon stir sticks, and I'm just going to cut these off at 8 inches. Now, these were longer at one point. I've already used these for another project. And then now that I've cut, I'm just going to glue these 2 together with some popsicle sticks to hold them together underneath. And I'm just using some wood glue on this to glue these together. I'm just going to glue the lower edge of both of these together because I don't want too much oozing out the top part. And then once this dries, then I'll flip it over, and then I'll put the little popsicle sticks or the craft sticks on the back to kind of finish it off. And then I am taking a clamp to clamp these because I do want these to be squeezed pretty tight together without any kind of gap. Once those have dried, I'm just going to take them apart, flip them over, and then I'm going to add my craft sticks to the bottom of them. I'm going to put 1 on each side. You want to cut them off so that you don't see them from the side, so kind of cut them a little bit short. And we're going to put them on both sides kind of away from the edge because we are going to add some feet to this. This is going to be a little tray. So just take your wood glue, add a little bit onto each one, and then just place it right on your little tray. We're not going to clamp these or anything like that. We're just going to put them down and let them dry. Then I decided that I needed 1 more. And so the little craft stick that I'm holding, I'm going to cut a piece off of it to put right into the middle. And then I'm just gluing that one right down into the very center, and then I'll let these dry. To cover my tray, I got this adhesive backed drawer liner from Amazon, and just kind of it's a wood look to it, like a weathered look. And I'm just going to put it between 2 of the sections because you don't want to just make it uniform looking. I'm going to pick between those 2 smooth section and the rough section. Then I'm just going to cut a piece off to go around on the front and then down to the back. I'm just going to remove the front part, and I'm going to lay my tray right down in the center part of this. Just kind of line it up and make sure you don't have any wrinkles and just kind of lay it right there and then push it down. Then we're going to start wrapping it around the edges. I'm going to cut 2 little squares out. They're just 1 square, 2 little slits to cut a square out on both sides so that I can wrap this and not have a bunch of overhang. And then I am going to trim it again here in a minute. I just had to do it a little bit different this way. So go ahead and push your 2 sides up. Make sure that they are flat right against your piece of wood and then fold them over to the back. And then I was a little bit short in the center and I am going to attach a piece in the middle just to kind of finish it up a little bit. But just take some time on this part. You want to try to smooth this out as smooth as you can get it. And then I'm going to cut just a little bit closer to the edge right here on both sides. Before I fold those 2 sides over, I am going to cut out a piece for the center to go right down the center. Now you could have measured, I should have measured first and got it at 1 shot, but I did end up maybe making it a little bit more blended in once I got it cut. And then I'm going to cut a little triangle, just a real slight one on both sides, just towards the back to make a tab, and I'm just going to fold that over. Just kind of push in your sides and then fold that over. And then do the same thing for the opposite side. And just kind of really smooth out your corners. And then I decided to come back in and lift the flap a little bit, put a little bit of hot glue just in case this releases a little bit. Got these little wooden legs at Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to paint them with a black chalk paint. Then to keep my flowers in place inside my little jars, I'm taking a pool noodle, cutting some little 1/2-inch wedges off of here, cutting them in half, and then I'm just going to stick my flower right down through the center of that. Just push it all the way down in, and then just put it in your jar. It's not going to go anywhere. You don't need any glue. And then do all of them exactly the same way. Embellish my jars. I got some of these Tim Holtz numbers, and I got some little Tim Holtz flowers also. These are little metal flowers, and these are in his Ideology collection. You can get some really cute things. And I'm just going to glue these on with some hot glue. And they carry these at Michael's and Hobby Lobby. They also have these on Amazon, and I'll give you the link for those. And then they came with some little brads to put into each one of those little holes. And since I am gluing this, I'm going to take my brads and I'm going to cut the top of them off and just glue those in. But try to line them up and make sure that your numbers are side by side and then your flowers are side by side, because we're going to put all these on across the tray together, and you want to kind of make sure that they're even. Taking a pair of wire cutters, and I'm going to get as close to the edge of that cap as I can. And then once I get these all cut out, then just take your pliers and then mash that inside part down. That way it'll be flat. Set these, I'm just using a little rhinestone setting tool just to stick these right into the center. It has kind of a sticky nub to it, and it holds these pretty good. But it's mainly for rhinestones. And I'll give you the link for these. I got these at Amazon. But this just finished dressing the little jars up a little bit more. Okay, now that my little legs are dried, I'm just going to hot glue these and E6000 glue these right into the corners. And then just set that aside and let it dry. This was a pretty easy project. And then I'm going to go ahead and line my little jars up right across the front, get them as straight as I can, and then I'm going to glue those to my tray. Just kind of make sure that they are spaced pretty evenly, and push a ruler on there to kind of get it on there, and then just pick each one of them up separate and glue them down. That way, if you need to carry the tray or move it or anything like that, you're not having to reposition your jars all the time. All right, look how cute that is. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video today. I hope it gave you some inspiration. All of these gifts were super easy to make and so budget friendly, you could just give them to just about anybody. If you like these kind of videos, be sure and give me a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when you have a new video upload. Thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if nobody's told you today, you're awesome. See you next time. Thanks for watching.